Well, after years of vomiting all over themselves in countless high-pressure moments throughout the postseason, the Boston Celtics have finally found an equation seemingly to capture an NBA championship. Convert Jason Tatum into a role player. And it worked to perfection last night in the Celtics' 107-89 win over the Mavericks in a Game 1 win that wasn't even that close, as Boston's big lead in the game swelled to 29 points in the first half. And while the Mavericks did cut the lead somehow to as low as 8 points briefly in the third, the Celtics swiftly jacked that back up to 20 in a matter of minutes by the end of the quarter. And from there, it was smooth sailing in the fourth for that 1-0 series lead. And all time in NBA history, the winner of Game 1 in this round of the playoffs goes on to win the title 70% of the time. So all in all, a pretty great start for the Celtics. And the story of the night, for them at least, was Kristaps Porzingis, who came into Game 1 with a restriction after missing 10 straight games spanning over the last 38 days. It was decided before tip-off that he would be coming off of the bench for, get this, only the second time of his entire career. In all, 473 games played and 472 games started coming into last night. But Porzingis responded despite the limitation in minutes, scoring 20 points on 8 of 13 from the field while collecting 6 rebounds and 3 blocks in only 20 minutes played. And he was the best player on the floor for either team in the 20 minutes he was on the court. Most surprisingly, that included on the defensive end as well, as he really bothered the Mavericks at the rim. And Porzingis became the first player to finish an NBA Finals game with at least 20 points and 3 blocks while coming off of the bench since Kevin McHale in 1984. And the Eastern Conference MVP Jaylen Brown was also instrumental on both ends of the floor, leading the Celtics in scoring with 22 points on 7 of 12 from the field and providing elite defense on basically whoever the hell he picked up. Just an overall solid game, which saw a myriad of nice contributions from virtually every Celtics player except for Jason Tatum's bum ass, who, despite Doris Burke's pathetic attempts, going to nauseating levels throughout the entirety of the telecast to hype him up.
It's a complete crap.
We all know what it was. 16 points on 6 of 16 from the field, 5 assists, and 6 turnovers. Pretty much thoroughly on brand for him. But again, when you're only expecting him to be the third best player on his own team, well, now you're on to something here, Boston. And this really has been a team that seemed just too big to fail all year long since their string of off-season acquisitions that saw them bring in the aforementioned Porzingis, who averaged 20 points and 7 rebounds on 52% from the field during this regular season. The Celtics also brought in Drew Holiday, who was the second best player on their chief conference rivals team, the Milwaukee Bucks. Yeah, the second best player for the Bucks, but he became the 5th option on this team this year with the emergence of Derek White. And speaking of White, by the way, he has been even better in these playoffs, as he is averaging 18 points, 4.5 assists, and 4 rebounds per game in the postseason thus far. It is no wonder this team had the 5th best net differential in NBA history during the regular season this year. And accordingly, they were the number 1 net rated offense during the regular season, but the thing that makes them truly special is that they also were the number 2 rated net defense. And it was on that end that they excelled last night. For the game, they shot 48% from the field and 38% from the three-point line, but they held the Mavericks to just 41.7% from the field and an absolutely abysmal 7 of 27 from the three-point line, which is good for just below 26%. And as bad as those numbers are, perhaps the most eye-popping number for the Mavericks last night was 9, as in just 9 assists.
9 times.
And Luka Doncic, who was turned into a volume scorer for the night, shooting just 12 of 26 from the field, was also held to only 1 assist for the game. And he came into the night averaging 9 assists for the playoffs and averaged nearly 10 per game for the regular season. The 1 assist for him is the lowest total for the entire season, and it marks a career low in the playoffs. So while Doncic undeniably struggled, he did also have 30 points and 10 rebounds for the game, becoming the first player since Tim Duncan 25 years ago to have a 30-point double-double in their first career finals appearance. The major issue for the Mavericks was no one else showed up on the night. Kyrie Irving, who was primarily singled all game long, came up with just 12 points on 6 of 19 from the field. And while the bench did get a bunch of points in garbage time during the fourth, at the end of the third, the entire bench had combined for just 4 points total. Meanwhile, the 89 points for the game is the lowest total for the Mavericks for this entire postseason. And the pressure in Game 2 will be squarely on Kyrie Irving, who played like abysmal ass in this game. Not just the aforementioned 12 points on 6 of 19 shooting, but while Doncic sat and Kyrie was the lone star on the court, the Mavericks were outscored 19-4. In fact, Irving registered a game-worst -19 last night. Now, ultimately, this is just one game, but as previously stated, Game 1 winners do go on to win 70% of the NBA Finals all time. But the Mavericks are no stranger to losing Game 1s, as this is now the 3rd time in the 4 series they've played in this postseason that they have trailed 0-1 to start. Likewise, they overcame 2 0-1 series holes during the 2022 postseason. But in all of those previous series, the Mavericks came back to win Game 2. They must do the same now if they have any aspirations of making this one a lengthy series. The verdict will be in on Sunday night in Game 2, where the Celtics have opened already as a 7.5-point favorite, and after their commanding Game 1 win, it is easy to see why they are such massive favorites.